All right, I am here with Josh Schluep. We're doing the wide angle today. Yeah, there you go. Say hi, everybody. Yeah, just testing out. We got our first interview. Might as well do it with my best friend and brother, Josh here. I'll give you a little bit of round of applause. Yeah, we'll just hop right into it. Real quick, who you are, a little bit about yourself, 30,000 foot view of, who is Josh?
Gosh, that's a loaded question. So I think we already got the name right. So my name is Josh Schluep, uh, a name that's been butchered my whole life. So I've heard Schlepp,
Welcome to the club,
I've heard
Canute.
Schlup. Yeah, Cornuti or Cornet. Cornetti is always my favorite.
Yep.
Um, so who am I as a person professionally, or who am I just a person in general?
You as a person in general. Let's a big part of the podcast that I'm going to do for the industry is having giving everybody a platform to kind of talk about who they are outside of work. We'll get to work eventually, but who you are, where you grew up, a little bit about your family.
Okay.
Just give
Yeah.
a good deep dive.
I grew up in a little town called Logan, Ohio. It's about 40 minutes southeast of here in Pickerington. It's a little, well, used to be a little farm country. It's since exploded since COVID. So, for those who don't know, Logan, Ohio is home to the second most visited tourist attraction in the state,
Which
behind
is
Old Man's Cave, that rests behind Cedar Point. I'll let Cedar Point have that one. That place is pretty great. But so Old Man's Cave is essentially exactly what it is. It's a set of caves and caverns and trails that take you through the backwoods and old caves. A lot of Indian heritage down in that area. Pretty cool. If you haven't had the opportunity, if you're ever in Ohio and you're looking for something to do outdoors, that's a lot of fun. Highly recommend Old Man's Cave. So that's where I grew up. My family moved there in 1985. It would been 6 weeks after my twin brother and I were born. We grew up, or I was born.
there's two of him.
Yes,
Complete polar opposites.
complete polar opposites. We don't even look related. We don't even look like, yeah, we don't even look like brothers. He's much calmer than me. But anyway, I was born in Mount Carmel West. So first 6 weeks of my life was spent on the hilltop of West Columbus. My dad always wanted to own a farm. So shortly after my brother and I were born, he bought this farmland down in Logan, Ohio, with an old farmhouse that was a log cabin during the Civil War era. And then the farmhouse was built around that. It still sits on an old sandstone foundation. My brother, my old second oldest brother Nick, still lives there. But anyway, moved down there, lived there until I was 18, and then that's when Travis and I met at a teen camp in Logan, Ohio. I was living with him shortly after.
I'll give a quick rundown. Why do I call you my brother?
All right, so funny story on that one. So I was all set to be a chef. I was on my way to culinary school. Then the summer of 2000, well, actually, it would have been before that. It would have been the fall of 2003. The girl I had been dating in high school broke up with me, and I thought that she was the one, so I was going to spend the rest of that year and all summer trying to win her back. So I canceled my senior trip with my friends. Ended up attending a Christian camp, Nazarene camp in Zanesville, Ohio. That's where I met Travis. It was sort of love at first sight, if you will, brothers at first sight. It was sort of an instant friendship. So we carried the friendship through that summer. My parents just happened to be moving out of the farmhouse. My dad's a pilot, still today, but at the time he had taken a job at an airport in Zanesville, of all places. So they moved. I needed a place to stay, so started coming up to Travis's house every weekend. Uh, his even against his father's will.
Sorry, Dad.
Even though he said, now's not the time for you to move in with us, still kept coming. And then one night, sitting on the couch with Rick in the family room of the house they live in now, and he said, "Why don't you just take the room upstairs?" So the rest is history. I lived with them throughout college. My first job was at an energy company that Rick owned. So Travis and I, my entire professional career has been working. Travis and I have worked together. since we started working.
Talk a little bit about the energy side.
So I spent 14 years in energy. Started at volunteer part time in 2008 while I was finishing out college. Uh, Went full time in May of 2009 and spent 14 years there. I was on the sales side. So at the energy company, we did a lot of same way that we do it here at Volley. It's more of an indirect relationship when it comes to the customer. So probably 90% of the business that we had on the energy side were brought to us through agents. So I managed, I'd probably say 10 to 20 agents. Some of the larger ones managed some large aggregation programs. Uh, man, I thought when I was in it, I'm like, man, this is what I want to do with the rest of my life. And then realizing now that I've been out of it for 2 years, I'm like, man, God, it was boring. I just did the same thing day in and day out. If you know anything about the energy space, which you do, but for those of you out there that don't, nothing changes with energy. Gas is gas, electricity is electricity, and it's just the same old thing. It's a rinse and repeat each and every day. So that company sold in March of 2022.
2022 or 2021, I can't
I think
remember.
it was 20. Either way,
Still a couple years ago.
yep. So I then transitioned full time over to Bali. And to be completely honest, it was a blessing in disguise. What really hit me in the beginning, I had a real identity crisis that was really difficult for me when it first happened because, when you sit back and you look at your life and you think that this is what I'm going to do with the rest of my life, and then that is no longer a
Yeah.
thing, you sort of like, well, who am I outside of this? So I had a really, really difficult time in the beginning, um, just finding out who I would be outside of that, and I didn't know what that would look
What do you
like.
think the biggest shift for you was between going from energy, going into what you're doing now personally? What made that such a hard?
I think the first part of me, for personally, so we had an office. We're still in the same office building that we were when we were volunteer. And if anybody knows me, and several of you out there do, I crave human interaction. That's where I am most comfortable. Uh, that's where I sort of thrive and shine. I love human interaction. I love being with people, conversing with people face to face. So the biggest problem I had in the beginning was the emptiness that I felt like the office was just filled with people. And then when you go from that to having just a handful of people in a building, um, man, I really had a hard time.
Just to put things into perspective, we have 44 offices here. Pretty much every single one of them was full, and we had some people outside. We went from 44 offices being taken up to about 6 to 7. Now we're up to 10, 11 offices being taken up. So it's when he's talking about that emptiness of the office, it's like going from hustling and bustling area to pretty much desolate. So
Mhm.
and it wasn't just because COVID, because we never shut down during the COVID time. So it was more of uh, uh, so many people that we had worked with for, like Josh said, 14, 15 years myself, they were just gone. And so, yeah, just kind of put things into perspective. It was truly an emptiness in this office.
Yeah, and you have this routine that you just go through for 14 years of your life. Like I'd come in, I'd answer emails and stuff, and then I'd get up from my seat and I'd go to other people's offices to have conversations, like not just about work, but like what's going on in your life. I mean, a lot of these people I grew up with and know on a more personal level. So to have that not taken away from you, but to have that huge change all at once, not only professionally where you think you're going to be at a job for the rest of your life, but then to have your routine within that job completely upended. It just, again, it was all part of that whole identity crisis that I had.
Yeah.
I had a really hard time um, getting past that. I mean, it took a couple of months, and I'm usually a pretty even keel guy. I'm pretty easy to get along with, but that was a really, I wouldn't say dark because it's not like I was suffering from depression. I mean, maybe some minor depression and stuff like that, but it was more of just who am I as a person, like professionally. Like
Outside of what you've been doing
yeah,
for the past 14
yeah. Like,
years.
I'm extremely, and you know what? I actually see it as a blessing now because it really forced me to it really forced me to take a harder look at myself, not just professionally, but spiritually, personally, all of these things. Like, and it's just something that like God's working on me now. So those who don't know as well, I would hope you do know because I would hope that people know that Christ is at the center of everything that I do, and that's another thing. Like when I made this career shift, I made a promise to God to be like, I'm going to make my faith front and center of everything that I do.
Understandable.
Not that like with energy, it's not like that I was ever ashamed of my faith, but it was never the first thing that I let people know, right? It was just as little as on my LinkedIn profile, making the very first thing underneath my name, Christ follower, right?
Right. And,
I know
and
it's small, but
yeah, no, well, and and that's huge, especially not many people are given the chance to kind of reinvent themselves in their mid to late 30s, and both of us having families, been married for 14 years each, having multiple kids. It's not only are you reinventing yourself, but it's that it not only is it a trial professionally, but it's also a trial of our faith. Do we cling to God during the good times and the bad times, and how we get through that, especially going into our 40s, having to start over. So what do you think was your in between the energy, that kind of dark place that I think we both went into? What was your aha moment? What kind of changed everything around for you?
um,
And you can use this to segue kind of into what you do now.
yeah. So I think the big aha moment for me. So on the energy side, we kind of I would like to say we were kind of pre-prepared for the way that part of our life was ending,
That's
or at
fair.
least I felt like I was. So in November, I believe it was, of 2021, it was the first channel partners post COVID. Uh, Travis and I, or at least I haven't, I don't know if you have or not, had never been to Vegas before.
Nope,
So
never.
uh, we're sitting here in the office. We understand that we want to transition out of energy into something into Bali, right? Into what we're doing today. So Travis comes to me and said, "Hey, we should do this channel partners thing out in Vegas." I'm like, "What's channel partners?" And so we literally went to Mandalay Bay. That's where it was. It was in November of 2021. We had no idea, literally zero idea of what channel partners was about. So we go there, warfare style, and we just go there and without an agenda or anything, and just wanted to start experiencing what this industry is. And I think that was probably my biggest aha moment. It was the energy, it was the people, it was the diversity of product, it was the diversity of people, it was the diversity of just literally everything. Like I said, energy is so cut and clean. It's natural gas. Your gas isn't different from my gas. Your electricity isn't different from my
Yeah.
electricity. It's the same product.
Yeah, and for those that may not be as well versed in the telecom side, if you're any kind of knowledge about the technology side, I'm sure you know of C3, or what's the E3 is the big gaming expo,
Yep.
and then what's the big tech one that we always want to go to?
Oh, is that the one out in California as well?
Why can I not think of the name of it?
See something.
Essentially, going from not being in the industry at all, and then going into the largest expo that industry has. So it was we were coming out of the frying pan and into the fire. Going from energy and going into the telecom side, and basically just I think that we both kind of strive with learning by overloading our circuits a little bit. And I think that we both thrive in that, not cutthroat, but almost like that kind of mentality. So it was definitely a shock going from doing nothing in telecom to going to the largest expo that telecom has. At least I know in the United States or North America, it's probably also the largest I would think in the world. So it's it was a huge culture shift for us going
Absolutely.
from energy is very suit and tie, although a lot of execs in the telco space also do that. It's definitely more laid back because you're still in the tech industry essentially. So got to talk about that a little bit. Josh is now comfortable. He's been doing this for a couple years now. He is just he, out of all the growth that I've seen in a lot of people that have had to switch careers, midlife. I think that he's thriving. What talk about a little bit? What do you do for Volley? What's your job entail? What's a day to day look like for you?
Well, that's definitely a loaded question. So a day to day for me for my position typically would be very um, organized. We are, we're a small company. We work with large partners, Fortinets and audio codes and these large global partners, but we still have that small business feel to us. So a lot of us, take on multiple roles, which is fun. It constantly keeps me on my toes, constantly has to keep me learning. I get to so I guess to answer your question, I officially am the director of channel and sales here at Volley Communications. However, I wear other hats for our partners to make sure that projects stay on task, and are completed in a timely manner. So I do a little of everything, but my passion, 100% is behind the sales side of this, and more importantly, the channel side of this. So, you want to talk about my aha moment? I think that the biggest, I mean, aha moment to the industry was obviously channel partners. The aha moment for the industry as a whole and what I get to do on a daily basis is the interactions I get to have with people and companies on a day to day basis. I've met some truly incredible people within this industry, um, that I count as dear friends. I could just ramble name, I mean, Eric Brooker, Dan Delozier, Ashley Cole,
Yeah,
Devin
feel free.
Ackley,
Drop as many names as you want.
Richard Black, like all of these, Brock Aldred, Aaron Crotty, Chris Dennis. Gosh, I could just keep going and going. Uh, just truly incredible people, that at their heart care deeply about the human experience outside of the day to day business. Can't tell you how many times I've had these individuals reach out to me, or when I see them in person, the first question out of their mouth is never, "How's Bali?" or, "What's your funnel look like?" or "How many deals have you closed?" It's like, dude, how are you doing?
How are you
How's
doing? How's your family
how's your
doing?
family? How's your
I
kids?
think that that's also something that has helped both of us, both you and I, kind of find our identities as we switched to this new career path. Is we went from an industry where being yourself and being personable and vulnerable
Hmm.
wasn't highlighted, and I think that the telecom industry couldn't be more about uh, about that. It's completely it's less of selling products and more of selling fixing problems rather
Yeah,
than selling products.
I think that's
And
fair.
the only way to do that is to be yourself, let people know who you are personally, because anybody can be sold a product now. But ever since this is a belief that I hold personally. Ever since COVID, the human condition is striving for that personal touch again, and it's been I'll gloat on him for a little while too. Sorry. Uh, it's a superpower. He's a very personable person. He wants to talk product last. He wants to hear how your day's been. He wants to know exactly how your family. He wants to know what you're eating this week. What are you cooking on the grill? Like, so that's it. That's who he is. Um, I'm going to gloat on him as much as I can. And if anybody has been around us before, that's our relationship. Um, I couldn't have thought of a better person to have on as my first interview than my not only my best friend, but he's truly my brother. You don't have to be blood to have that relationship. Um, So yeah, it's been awesome having him on here. I'm glad that he's able to talk about what he does. Real quick, before we close out, when you're not here, when you're not putting in the hours for volley, what are you doing outside of here? What are your hobbies? What do you like to do in your off time? Uh, you got a good 5 minutes. Let's talk about what's Josh do when he's not here at work on
Okay,
the
so
clock.
loaded question again. So before this industry, and I have to give a big shout out to my boy Ronald Richards for this one, was never a bourbon dude. But to see someone so passionate about something, you, like Ronell is with business and bourbon, I couldn't help myself but to get into that. So now, because of him, I've become a huge bourbon guy. Love a good, tasty smoked old fashioned. But then if you just want to throw some bourbon on the rocks and have me drink it, I'm all with that as well. Uh, Outside of that, I've been a gamer my entire life. I'm gonna have to
Favorite game right now. I know what it is, but let's let everybody know how true of a nerd he is.
this is 100% Travis's fault. I grew up a console guy my entire life. I never played PC other than like Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Yeah.
So it was, I have the date. It was November of 2011. Travis is like, dude, you got to try this game with me. It's a blast. I'm like, I don't do PC, you know that. So finally, he bugged me enough, and I tried it. It's called Dota 2, Defense of the Ancients 2. I now have, sadly, close to 5,000 hours invested into this game, and it literally never gets old. It's the same characters. It's the same premise: defeat the ancient or destroy the ancient. It's the same game. Same. The map changes and stuff like that, but can't get enough of it. Cannot get enough of it because every game plays differently based off of your teammates. So huge into that game. I still console, but I'm waiting for a console game that's just gonna blow my mind. I think the next one may either be GTA 6 or something along those lines. I like a game that just immerses me, where it's open world, where I can just mind-numbingly,
Yeah, it'll probably be GTA 6.
yeah. Uh, I have my family. I'm 100% passionate about my family. Without getting emotional, my wife is the best thing that's ever happened to me, other than my salvation.
Quick, funny little story. I went to school with his wife growing up, and he went to school with my wife growing up.
Yes. I actually dated my wife's roommate freshman year first. There's a whole story behind that one as well. But she is literally the best thing that's ever happened to me, especially over these last 2 years. I've fallen more in love with my wife over these last 2 years than I can even put into words. She is my rock. She is the constant. She is the gears that keep our families moving. We have 3 kids. I love my girls and my son. Rylan is our oldest. Kennedy is our middle child. Camden is the youngest. Camden's older Uncle Travis. But like a big part of my life is invested into their passions,
Yeah.
and that's called
Oh
parenting.
yeah,
So
that's life as a dad.
yeah, so my girls are huge into competitive dance, so that takes up probably 5 nights of my week. But it's fine. I love it. I wouldn't have it any other way. And then outside of that, I am hugely passionate about my wood shop. I do lots of furniture flips and stuff like that. That's sort of my zen. That and cycling.
Here's a couple pictures of them. I'm going to put them right here.
And then my bike. Cycling is where I go to clear my mind. I do it when I can. I try and do it every morning, but it's my peace.
It's true. He'll text me that he just did like 20 miles, and it's not even 5:30 by then. So it's
Shout out to my boy Will Slappy on that one as well. Also
man, I'm gonna have a lot of people to tag on this.
cycle advocate as well. But I mean, yeah. What I thought was the worst period of my life, having to reinvent myself and do something different. It was the first time in my life I ever took a leap of faith,
Yeah.
where I said, God, my future is 100% in your hands. I have to remind myself of that every day because I still struggle with doubt and stuff like that. But I do truly believe I'm where God wants me to be, with the people I'm supposed to be with in the industry I'm supposed to be. I get excited about showing up to work every day. I get excited to meet new people and to continue growing the relationships I have with, again, too many people to name
Yep.
out there. So, yeah, I mean, I'm blessed. What I thought was important in my life 2 years ago, I realized was just superficial and things that weren't important. So these last 2 years with this career change and everything, and the people I've got to meet, it has helped put into perspective of what's truly important in life, and that's relationship and just building on that because everything else sort of falls in place. It's people over product. We preach that here at Volley. Um, get to know the individual because at the end of the day, they're not buying a product; they're buying a person.
Yeah.
And if we can convey that as a company and as individuals that we truly care about your company and you as individuals, then everything else just sort of falls in place and everybody succeeds.
I love it.
Yeah.
See, there's a reason I had him as my first guest. I get to work with this guy every day, so it's awesome. I'll put all of his links in the show notes. I'll put his. I think really he's only active on LinkedIn. He used to be on X, but now he's not there anymore. So that'll be in the show notes. Make sure you link up with him there. Send out a connection request, and let's close with a round of applause. There's yeah. All right, thank you, man. Love you, bud. Thanks for coming on, being on.